real quick, I want to talk to you guys, or we want to talk to you guys about prompting hierarchy. This is just one example. If you're working with your speech pathologist, they've got their own type of prompting hierarchy. And depending on the skill that we're teaching in the classroom, we may have a completely different one. But one that we want to talk to you guys about today is this one that's like least to most or most to least. If I could draw your eye up to the top where it says visual and independent, that's where our visual prompts that we've been talking about today come in. Because once we've taught them, the student is independent. Below that would be a gesture. So that's part of the teaching process. And you've probably seen Daleen and I gesture at the things we've held up just today. That's part of teaching. First, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. Underneath that is verbal, which is the hardest to fade. And that's one of the messages that we hope that you take away today is that using visual supports reduces the verbal prompt. And what does a verbal prompt require? A teacher or a para. And we want our students to be independent. So think about how you can use visual prompts in your environment to reduce the verbal prompting, therefore making the students more independent. So one example that Daleen and I were talking about the other day to help you think through prompting hierarchy is that I've been teaching my kids to drive. So go ahead and put me on your prayer list because it is, if you've ever done it, a stressful thing. But thinking about the visual supports in the environment. So when I'm pulling up to a stop sign with Eli, that his visual prompt, natural in his environment, is that stop sign. If he stops, eureka, he can do that without me. As we start getting close to the stop sign, if he's not getting on the brake, I feel like I'm going to die. I start to panic and I point. I'm not going to say anything because I want him to be independent. I don't want him to rely on me to say, son, we're getting to the stop sign. You've got to stop, put on your brake. I want him to see that in his environment and independently use that support. So I'm not going to talk the first time. I'm just going to point if he misses it. And then I'm going to screech, please stop. That's going to be the verbal prompt. But if you think if Eli requires me screeching stop in order to stop at a stop sign, he's going to live with me forever. He's never going to be independent in his ability to drive. And then the physical prompt would probably be like that air brake where all else has gone wrong and you're like slamming your feet into the floor. Or if you've got driver's ed, they like manually stop the car. But we just wanted you guys to think about what does the prompt look like? Where do the visual supports come into play? And they're up there at that top. They don't require a human being. They're in our environment. That makes you independent for the purposes of this prompting hierarchy.
Rebecca, I really appreciate that because it's very, very soon that I'm going to need to teach some kids to drive, and it has me very panicked.
Yeah.
So I might need your support to remind me of
Right.
the prompting when we get there.
Absolutely. And the stakes are that high for our kids, and a lot of times, if we can teach our kids to use a visual stop sign at the door and not run out, we're making our environment more safe for them. So very powerful. Just print this and put it in your classroom. If it's supportive to you, you can use visual supports at all the levels. And, obviously at the top, that's the most independent, and the bottom is where our students are the most dependent on us.
It's also really great to share with your paras so that they understand the prompting hierarchy and how they can support students, but also move them towards independence. And think about these kiddos that are starting to go into general education environments. If they have a visual and they can be independent with that, how amazing is that? That they can participate in an environment that is now open to them.
Absolutely.
Because they have the skills.